From the Library of Congress in Washington, D.C.
Okay, well, this is really exciting because we just met Matt Luckhurst backstage, and I got to flip through his amazing book on Paul Bunyan. Who's ever heard of Paul Bunyan? Really? Okay, now, Matt Luckhurst is a descendant of Canadian loggers, and he's originally from Nanaimo, British Columbia. He is a graduate of the School of Visual Arts MFA design program. This is his first picture book, and it's really awesome. And he lives in Brooklyn. He's here to tell us about Paul Bunyan. So welcome to the stage, Matt Luckhurst.
Put your hands together.
Hi, guys. Hi, everybody. How you guys doing? Do you want to see me break dance? I can't break dance. I'd fall over. So, guys, this is the first book I've ever written. And this is one of the first times I've ever talked to so many people before. So it's really cool you're all here to listen to it. Does anybody know who Paul Bunyan is? You guys all know who Paul Bunyan is? Do you guys know how tall Paul Bunyan was? Was he this tall? Was he this tall? Was he this tall? Was he as tall as the White House? He was huge. Tall Bunyan was taller than the trees and as large as the mountains. And he was the first American folktale. So I rewrote a story about him. Now, Paul Bunyan was a lumberjack. Do you guys know what a lumberjack is? So he went through the forest and the trees and cut them down to make wood. And he had a best friend. Do you guys know what an ox is? An ox is like a big cow, and they're really, really hungry, and they really like pancakes, as it turns out. So this is my book, guys. This is Paul Bunyan and Babe the Blue Ox in the Great Pancake Adventure. Do you guys want to hear it? Yeah! So, this is a story of a man and his ox. The man's name was Paul Bunyan. He was taller than the trees and larger than life, and he forever changed the American landscape. People remember him and his best friend, Babe the Blue Ox, as the greatest lumberjacks to ever work in the forest. What folks usually do not remember is how that came to be. And this is Babe. He's holding a pancake and syrup because he really loves syrup with his pancakes. Do you guys like syrup with your pancakes? And you guys like pancakes, right? Who here likes broccoli? You guys all like broccoli? Broccoli. Who here likes pancakes, though? Awesome. So Paul was a very big boy in a very small town on the banks of the St. Lawrence River. He was so big when he was a kid that he lifted up whole sailboats in the river. At school, Paul had to squish his way into the classroom. My ox ate my homework, he said, and that's Babe eating his homework. He was not a very good student. He was more interested in his favorite thing to eat, Mom's pancakes. Math, Paul said, is just not very tasty. Do you guys like math? No, pancakes are better. The countryside grew every kind of vegetable and fruit, but Paul and Babe wanted pancakes. Paul's mom sat them down for a talk. You have to start eating the food we grow. You're going to get sick if all you eat are pancakes. She gave them each some broccoli, but when Paul and Babe tried it, they spat it right out. These green things are for the rabbits. What big guys like us need are pancakes, said Paul. So Paul's mom cooked pancakes all day and all night, and her son and Babe greedily gobbled up each and every delicious one. Being a growing boy and ox, they could eat a lot. I just cannot keep feeding you and Babe all these pancakes, Mom said, panting. I have fields to tend. Paul and Babe tried to help Mom by working in the vegetable fields, but their feet were just too big. They squished and squashed everything in sight. So that's them trying to help out in the field, but they're just squishing all the vegetables. And Babe ruined a barn. Paul's and Babe's appetites had become too big, and so had they. So one day, they decided it was time to follow their stomachs and find their pancake fortune out in the great big world. So Paul hugged his mom and promised to write, and he and Babe took off into the deep, dark forest. It's a big, dark forest. Soon, Paul and Babe's heads were in the clouds, and their stomachs were rumbling like hungry bears. So much so, they barely heard the man who was calling to them. "We've got a big problem down on the Syrup River," he yelled. "I need a couple guys with big appetites to come help out." When they got to the river, it was a mess. A truck had rolled over and dumped its load of flour into the river, whipping up a sizable amount of batter, which had caused a log jam. The hot summer sun soon had that batter sizzling up into more pancakes than Paul and Babe had ever seen. Their dream had come true, so they put on their best eating hats and went to it. And that's the river filled with pancakes they have to eat the way out of. Hang on. Yeah. Well, it was the Syrup River. So they ate and they ate and they ate pancakes until Paul's shirt buttons popped off. When every last pancake had been eaten, the log swept down the river without a problem. Bill couldn't believe his eyes. "Why don't you and Babe come work for me, logging the land? I'll pay you in as many pancakes as you can eat." Paul and Babe enthusiastically agreed. So up and down the country, Paul and Babe tromped and stomped with Bill. From Wisconsin to California, up the Little Garlic River and down the Onion, through Tall Wolf Country and across the Beartooth Plateau, Paul and Babe helped log the land. Up in the Land of Lakes near Minnesota, it got so cold that all Paul's words froze before they could make a sound. They say you can still hear his voice in the forest today as they thaw out. And out west, Paul and Babe tried to level the ground by filling in valleys with pancake batter, because that's what they had to fill things with. Everything was pancakes. When the sun came up, the ground grew hot and it started to cook, and up popped a whole mountain range right in front of them. The mountains used to be bigger, but Paul and Babe were hungry and snacked on some of them. Because of their uneven appearance, folks called them the Rocky Mountains. So you guys can all tell your teachers the Rocky Mountains are made of pancakes. Okay. Down along the Colorado River, a stray pancake got picked up by a strong wind, and Babe took after it. Paul tried to hold him back. He dug his heels into the ground. When Babe finally caught the pancake, though, he and Paul had dug up a huge swath of dirt that is now called the Grand Canyon. So that was also made from pancakes. But one day, Babe's bright blue glow began to fade. He was feeling sick. He just lay there like a big blue oxberry. That's what Babe looks like when he ate too many pancakes. Like a blueberry. Paul was worried, and not feeling so good himself, Bill called a doctor to come examine them both. The doctor said, "You seem to be eating too many pancakes." "Too many pancakes?" Paul exclaimed. "That's impossible. There's no such thing as too many pancakes." The doctor explained to Paul and Babe that they needed to balance their diet and eat different foods, or they would both become even more ill. Paul figured they'd better do what the doctor said. But where could they find enough good food for them both? Paul thought for a moment. Where? Then it hit him. Home! Paul and Babe said their goodbyes to Bill, and when they got back home, Paul's mom was mighty glad to see them. And sure enough, there was plenty of healthy food for them both. Soon Babe turned bright blue again. "See, your mom is always right," Paul's mom said proudly. And from that day forward, they stayed in town, growing Bunyan-sized veggies and helping the townspeople. And, of course, always listening to what Mom said and eating a heap of fruits and vegetables. And those are the giant vegetables Paul and Babe grew together. And that is how Paul Bunyan and his best friend, Babe, changed the American landscape and became the greatest lumberjacks ever. And they never ate any fluffy, delicious pancakes ever again. Well, every now and then they might sneak one or two. Just don't tell Mom. And that's my book, you guys. Thank you. So you guys gonna eat a lot of pancakes? And a lot of more vegetables, right? Yeah. All right, I will answer some questions if anybody has them. So how about you right there?
How was the big lumberjack born?
How was he born? He was born as a normal baby, but then he grew really, really fast, and he got bigger and bigger and bigger because he ate so many pancakes until he was a giant. You have a question.
Okay, how do you make the books?
Go on?
How do you make the books?
I made the book by writing for months and drawing for months and then painting them. I paint them on big pieces of paper like this with a thing called gouache. Yeah. Right over there.
Exactly how tall is Paul Bunyan?
Paul Bunyan, nobody can say exactly how tall Paul Bunyan was. All they can say is he was really, really big. The old stories of Paul Bunyan was based on a very tall man, and then over time he got bigger and bigger and bigger in people's imaginations. So in the end, he was taller than the mountains even. That's why they say he was as big as the Rocky Mountains. And he ate some of them, and that's why they're uneven.
Did he eat a lot of pancakes? Did he eat them day and night?
All he ate was pancakes for years. How many pancakes do you think Paul Bunyan ate? That's a lot of pancakes. I got a million, zillion, million, billion. I think that sounds pretty accurate, though. Yeah. You got a question?
Why did you choose to write this story?
My parents, or my grandpa, was a logger in Canada, and he used to tell me the story of Paul Bunyan. And my mom used to cook me pancakes every weekend. So I like pancakes a lot, and I like Paul Bunyan a lot. So I thought I'd write a story about that. Do you have a question?
Why did Paul Bunyan eat so many pancakes?
Because he thought they were delicious. That's all he liked eating. And he put a lot of syrup on them. Then he had to learn that you can't just eat pancakes or you get sick, even though they are pretty delicious. Who else? You got a question.
Is there a pancake recipe on the back, like how to make a yummy pancake?
We are working. We should get a pancake recipe. You're right. You got to talk to you should get your mom's pancakes though. That's always the best to me.
How did you decide that you wanted to be a writer?
Well, I started off drawing pictures all the time. And then because I like drawing pictures so much, I learned to write stories with my pictures because the pictures have to come from somewhere. So the more pictures I drew, the more stories I wrote, and so they just kind of went together. So I draw pictures with stories with them now, which is really fun. I like your hat. Oh.
How did okay.
Good question.
How old is Paul Bunyan?
How old? Paul Bunyan, it would be almost 120 years old today. Yeah, the story started back in 1898, which is a long time ago. So he's very old. He's as old as America even. What's that?
Question.
One more question?
How come you don't know how to break dance?
How? I don't know. I wish I could break dance. He stole all the good breakdance moves apparently and left none for me.
I have to ask you a question.
Okay.
I wonder, did Paul Bunyan actually make the Grand Canyon?
Yeah, that's totally true. Yeah, so if your teacher says that's not true, then they're wrong.
Who illustrated the story?
Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I did. I illustrated it and I wrote the story. So it was really fun because I got to write whatever pictures I drew, I got to write stories to.
How long did it take you to make the book?
It took me about a year to make the book because I'd write it and then I'd write it again and then I'd try it again and then I'd draw it and then I'd draw more and I'd do another drawing. It's a lot of work, but it's really fun.
You should put purple pancakes with Paul Bunyan.
Purple pancake? All right, the second book, we will have great pancakes maybe because those would be purple, right?
Oh, I wasn't ready.
Oh, we got a little one here.
Why did you make the story?
Why did I make the story?
Yeah.
Because my grandpa used to tell me about Paul Bunyan. And so I wrote a story about Paul Bunyan, and I really like eating pancakes whenever I can for breakfast. All right, guys, that's all the time we have for questions and things. I hope you liked the story. Did you guys have fun? Right on. Well, thank you guys so much for listening to my story. It was awesome.
Matt Luckhurst, he will be.
This has been a presentation of the Library of Congress. Visit us at loc.gov.